Have you ever asked yourself, can I sell cheesecake from home? What about tres leches? Do I need a permit? Can I ship my cookies? What about, can I sell from TikTok? And the most frustrating answer to all of these questions is, it depends where you live at. That's because most home-based food businesses operate under cottage food laws. And those laws are not the same everywhere. Welcome to the Cottage Bakery Notebook. I'm Leilani, founder of Les Cherie, and today we are talking about cottage food laws. We will be breaking down what cottage food laws actually are, why they exist, how states decide what you can and cannot sell, how to find your state's rules, and common mistakes and misconceptions. Today we will officially begin page 1 of our cottage food notebook. So if you have your notebook handy, great. If you don't, what are we doing, my little cherries? Go grab your handy dandy notebook because you are going to need it for today's lesson. I'm going to be sharing a lot of information. Before we start, I want you to write down your state, county, and city because you will need this later. So, what are cottage food laws? Cottage food laws are laws that allow you to make certain foods in your home kitchen and sell them legally without operating a traditional commercial food facility. Normally, food sold to the public is regulated for safety and must meet facility requirements. Cottage food laws give people a way to make safe food at home. But cottage food law does not automatically mean that there aren't other rules that you need to follow. That is one of the biggest misconceptions. Operating from home may still involve things such as registration for permits, food safety training, label requirements, approved food lists, safety restrictions, local business requirements, inspection in some jurisdictions, and revenue limits in some jurisdictions as well. Depending on where you live, the same terminology is not used. So you might hear cottage food operation or CFO, cottage food producer, home-based food business, or home bakery. But don't panic. If your state doesn't use cottage bakery, remember each state names theirs different. However, they still mean the same thing. So why do cottage food laws exist? Cottage food laws exist so they can balance these two things. They allow small food entrepreneurs to sell food from their home, while also protecting the public from food safety risks. This is why the rules focus so heavily on what you are making. For example, a shelf-stable cookie and a cheesecake require different safety handling. This brings us to TCS, time, temperature, control for safety foods. Some items must stay cold or hot to prevent certain bacteria from growing. Because of this, they face stricter rules and usually cannot be made under cottage food laws. So you might be wondering, what can you sell? Cottage food lists vary by state, as there is no single national standard. However, most state programs allow certain shelf-stable foods like cookies, breads, certain cakes and cupcakes, certain pies, certain candies and their confections, pretzels, granola, popcorn, certain snacks or nuts, certain jams or preserves as permitted. But keep in mind, just because you see someone selling something on TikTok or whatever social media platform you use, doesn't automatically mean that you can also sell that. Because that's not necessarily the case. That person could live in another state, have a different permit, or simply they might just be selling something that they're not legally permitted to sell. Remember, social media isn't your health department. So what can't you sell? What is off limits? Foods that need refrigeration or temperature control face the most restrictions. Since rules vary, you must check your local laws. But restricted items often include cheesecakes, cream pies, custards, certain creams or fillings, certain cream-filled pastries, some dairy-based fillings in our frostings, foods containing meat, and other products requiring temperature control. Don't assume a safe cake means safe frosting or filling. Your exact recipe matters because different toppings and fillings carry different safety risks. Always check your state's official approved food guide, not a generic list that you found on Pinterest. So, how do you find your cottage food laws? This is where your handy dandy notebook comes into play. So, I'm going to guide you step by step. So, step 1, search your state. Instead of how to start a bakery, search your state cottage food law. And then you want to look for government resources. Step 2, find the approved food information. Write down what foods am I allowed to produce. Do not build your menu before answering this. Step 3, find permit registration requirements. Ask yourself, do I need a cottage food permit? What about a license or registration or other authorization? Step 4, look at sales rules. Look at whether or how your customer can buy your product, whether that is selling directly to your customer, selling online, deliver, ship, sell at farmers market, sell at events, or sell through retail businesses. You could also do all of them if your state allows. Step 5, check labeling requirements. Don't assume a cute logo sticker is compliant with a food label, because requirements may involve business and or production identification, ingredients, allergens, net quantity, required food cottage statements, and or other jurisdiction specific requirements. Step 6, check sales limits. If applicable, not all states have sales limits, but some states do enforce cottage food sales caps or minimums. Step 7, check local requirements. State, county, and city. This is very important because just finding your state's cottage food law doesn't necessarily mean that you're finished. Local requirements can matter too. You need to check things such as county environmental health, city business licensing, zoning and or home occupation requirements, and other requirements applicable to your business. Okay, so today's notebook assignment, I'm going to add a page in here. Let's create a page, okay? We are going to title it My Cottage Food Rules. You're going to put in state, county, city, approved foods, permit and or registration required, food safety training, where I can sell, shipping allowed, sales limit, label requirements, local requirements, official sources and or websites. Once you're done creating all of those sections on your page, you're going to fill them in according to all of the information that you found during the steps. Now, let's get to the fun stuff. Some common food law misconceptions. Myth number 1, it's homemade, so I don't need a permit. Making it from home does not exempt you from the rules. Myth number 2, my state has a cottage food law, so any home cooked food is fine to sell. That is incorrect. Cottage food rules are strict and only permit certain food items. Myth number 3, everyone online says buttercream is allowed. The answer depends on your location and potentially your recipe. Myth number 4, I formed an LLC, so I'm legal. Remember, an LLC is only a business structure. It doesn't replace food-related permissions that may be required. Myth number 5, my friend sells cheesecake from their house, so it must be legal. You don't know what legal framework they may be following or if they're even following the rules. Myth number 6, cottage food laws are basically the same everywhere. That is incorrect. Let's say you live in California and you see another California cottage food baker on TikTok. You might think, okay, well, we both live in California, so whatever steps they took to start their bakery will work for me. But that's not necessarily true. California establishes the state's cottage food framework, but cottage food operations also deal with local enforcement. So someone operating from LA County might not go through exactly the same process as someone that's living in Riverside County. And then your city might have additional local requirements. That's why I don't want you copying somebody else's startup checkup list just because they live in the same state as you do. This is one of the biggest beginner mistakes. One, they decide they want to start a bakery. Then they create like 15 menu items. Then they buy packaging and equipment. They design labels and start creating their social media. And then they start taking orders. After doing all that, that's when they decide they want to search their cottage food law. And that's a completely backwards way to start, because you need to know exactly what you're permitted to sell before you can build any of that. Instead, these are the steps you should do. Research your laws, determine allowed foods, build your menu off of those allowed foods. Then you can determine your requirements. You can set up your business and you can start selling. Okay, so we talked about a lot today. So let's recap this lesson. These are the 5 key things to remember. Number 1, cottage food laws make certain home food businesses possible. 2, cottage food does not mean unregulated. 3, not every food can be sold under cottage food rules. 4, rules vary by location. 5, research your laws before building your menu or putting money into your business. Before our next class, I want you to fill out the page that we built together. On the next class, we're going to learn everything you need before selling. So now that you understand cottage food laws and know where to find these rules, the next class is where we're going to start putting everything together. We're going to go over everything that you should have in place before starting, from permits and food safety requirements to your menu, labels, pricing, payment setup, and more. Because before you post now accepting orders, there are a few things we need to do. So I'll see you guys in the next class. If you can't find your state's cottage food information, drop it in the comments. And if you're following along, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can keep up with each lesson. I post a new lesson every single week. You can also follow me on TikTok at Les Cherie Confections. I post daily resources and information there. And if you're interested in downloading my digital resources, all of my links will be down in the description. See y'all next week.